they become personal attacks. And you can always look for that to happen if you're leading anything that's for the Lord. Amen. You might be a child of God, but believe me, there's some people that are the child of the devil.
Amen.
And they're going to rise up against you. We've seen them rise up earlier. And they haven't quit. They haven't quit. Here Nehemiah is trying to continue forward with the work of God. And Nehemiah's got to have some discernment. He's got to be able to read the situation, know just how dangerous it is, and know how to keep himself walking circumspect, and to have wisdom how to deal with it, but yet not have any fear. And one of the toughest things you ever have is to go to court and not be afraid. Amen? But if you can ever learn to go to court and have fun at it, you're doing something right. Because if you're doing something wrong, then there's a reason to be afraid. So here's Nehemiah struggling against these personal plots against him personally. And so we see there's three schemes going on here. That's our 3 points for the day. Number one, we see that there was a scheme of compromise, trying to get him to cooperate with these worldly unbelievers there that wanted to put their 2 cents and get their control into the thing. It's one thing to be selfish and want everything, but it's another thing to be self-willed and think it's got to be your way all the time. You know what I'm talking about? So we see this even in verse 1. That the enemies had a scheme. They heard that the wall had been almost completed. Only the gates remained to be hung. So they sent a message to Nehemiah pretending to desire compromise and cooperation. Then we see the second point down there in verse 5. Scheme number 2 was the slandering. Send slammer out and rumor to lie about Nehemiah. And we see to the nth degree that they'll go.
Right.
Here we see the enemy scheme. They send an unsealed letter to Nehemiah so that people, as they handle the letter and hand it on to this guy, hand it on to that guy, to find everybody can read it because it's not sealed. They're all reading it. Hey, that's what that letter says. Don't tell nobody. Amen. Amen. They send Nehemiah an unsealed letter so that people would read it and spread its lies. Where Sanballat charged Nehemiah with plotting a rebellion to set himself up as a king.
Right.
And then thirdly, we see the third scheme in verse 10. How they're acting cowardly and disobeying God. We see the enemy scheme. They hired the priest Shemaiah, who had professed to be a friend of Nehemiah, but he was a false prophet.
Right.
Shemaiah, whatever it is, to deceive Nehemiah and lead him into a trap. He warned Nehemiah of an assassination plot that happened that very night. He suggested they hide in the holy place there. Let's go run to the temple. There's a verse in Proverbs that says, the wicked flee when no man pursueth.
Yeah.
Amen.
It's funny how a guilty conscience will bother a guy.
Right.
One of the greatest thrills I had working at Toledo Baptist Temple during that standoff when we were waiting for the United States Marshals to come and take over that building. Indianapolis Baptist Temple, thank you. I stand corrected. Was as we were waiting those 63 days for the Marshals to come, and they came on the 98th or 93rd days when they came. And what's so funny is they would send these little boys up that were in special forces out of Fort Knox. They'd come up. And they'd pretend to be blending in with the crowd and stuff, you know, trying to learn what they could learn. They were spying us out from the inside. And I'd spot these guys, and I'd have all my security guys keeping an eye on them for me, so it kept them nervous. And then always when it come time to leave and service was over, I'd be hanging around, and I'd hang around them on purpose so that they could see that I was watching them and I was close by. And then even as they would head towards the door, I was going through them like I was going to talk to them, call them to stop. I want to talk to you a minute. And then they couldn't resist it. Once they got away from that door and got down the sidewalk, they would run to their car. They would literally run to their car. And it was so funny because they were afraid that I might see that they had a permit sticker on a car that they could park on base there, you know, in Fort Knox, Kentucky. But I already seen the car and seen the permit, so but they didn't know that. So they just, man, then they back up again, they get out of there quick. Because in the back of their mind they're thinking, oh no, he's going to catch me. The wicked flee when no man pursueth. So it's funny how psychology, buddy, will betray you every time if you're not careful. Amen.
Right.
If you're not real careful. And so these guys are hoping against hope to get Nehemiah to even make some action that would look like he's guilty, but Nehemiah could care less what the clowns accuse him of, saying this is fixing to happen. He's, as they say, cool as a cucumber. He's cool as a cucumber, not like Larry the cucumber, amen? He's cool as a cucumber. And there's some great truths here. I love verse 3. I've used verse 3 so many times, and I'm bringing it out to you because you might have to use it someday. And you're trying to do something for God. This is why we taught our guys street preaching. When you're street preaching, the most important thing is that the preaching go forward.
Amen.
That's right.
The devil wants preaching to stop. And even the people you're preaching to, many times they don't know why. But they'll say, hey, would you talk to me a minute? I want you to talk to me a minute. Would you talk to me a minute? They're trying to do anything they can do. They don't even know why. It's to get the preaching to get stopped. That's why we've always coached our guys. Here, talk to that guy here. He'll talk to you. Talk to this guy here. He'll talk to you. But don't stop the preaching. And even if the cops or somebody comes and stops you and is talking to you, well, somebody else will start preaching.
Amen.
We're not going to stop the preaching.
Right.
See what I'm saying? Because that's the most important thing that's happening on that corner that day. It's the most important thing that's ever happened on that corner on that day. And we're not going to let the devil get a victory by stopping the preaching any longer than we have to stop. Amen. So notice what he said to these clowns in verse 3. Would you come down here and talk to us? I love that the fact it was in the plane of oh no. You can't tell me. I know where oh no come from. Why don't we say, oh yes, when the kid spills his milk? Where in the world did it come from? We say, oh no! Amen. I'm so glad that the Bible tells us, just as sure as the children of Israel wandered in the wilderness of sin, amen, that these clowns come to make trouble for Nehemiah. Let us meet together in some one of the villages in the plain of oh no.
Right.
Amen. Look what he says. I'm doing a great work. Now, are you doing the work of the Lord? Are you living for the Lord? Are you doing your best for the Lord?
Amen.
Then don't let these little clowns slow you down.
Amen.
Why should the great work cease? See? I'm doing a great work so that I cannot come down. Why should the great work cease while I leave it and come down to you?
Amen.
Now, if there's ever a time you're talking to me on the telephone and I've just hung up with you and you're doing your best to call me back and I don't answer, that's probably the reason right there. Many is the time I'm in the middle of doing something
Amen.
and I'm looking and saying, who's calling me now?
Oh no.
Don't they know I got something to do? I ain't got time to talk on the phone.
That's right.
It's almost like getting some emails from some of our friends, you know, because they got nothing to do. Sit at a computer and send out emails, send forwards. Sorry, I got something else to do.
Amen.
And why should this great work cease? Amen.
Amen.
So you got to get your priorities right. Amen? You got to know what your priorities are. Amen. And you got to keep them that way. Now, people with frustrated ambitions, they'll try